My name is Ashley Silva, and I did my presentation on Toddlerhood. In doing this, I went and I observed one 3-year-old little boy. He just so happened that there was another 3-year-old little girl that was present at the same time, so some of the things that you will see in this presentation do relate a little bit to the little girl, but most of my focus was on the 3-year-old little boy. Now the mom here, she is a single parent. She previously, when the child was first born, had worked 2 jobs. She was working at Walmart during the day and working at McDonald's at night. This is where I first met the lady that let me see her child, and she, like I said, she was struggling to get by, so she was working the 2 jobs. She has lost the job at Walmart, so now she's just working the 3rd shift job with McDonald's. So she spends a lot of her time sleeping most of the day, and then is up maybe some in the afternoon, but primarily she sleeps most of the time. She does live in the home with her mother and her sister, who has the little girl, so that's why she was around for the interview. But they didn't seem like they were super involved either. When I first arrived, the children were running around and very showy. They were wanting to show me things. They were very rambunctious. They were kind of showing off and look what I can do, and jump in and singing songs and just kind of being real playful. And after I was there for a little while, I did ask the little boy if he knew his ABCs. Well, then he tried to be funny, and he was saying his ABCs all out of order. And then he did the same thing when he was counting. I kept asking him how high can he count, and he would say 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, or 1, 2, 3, 6, 5, 9, or something, and they'd all be out of order. So I had asked the mom that was present during the observation if he typically does know how to count, and she said yes, he does know how to count all of his numbers all the way up to 10. He was just showing off because there was some stranger there and he thought he was being cute. He was very vocal. Felt like he had a lot to say. He was very vocal, and he wanted to come over and talk to me, and the little girl was even a little bit more social than he was. She was more hands-on, touchy than he was. But you could tell by the way that they act and the way the home was kept that that there was some lack of supervision there. He did have some times where he had some trouble pronouncing his words. I just kind of noticed I had a hard time understanding a lot of the words that he was saying, but of course the mother understood just about everything he was saying. And he was very imaginative. He has a green eggs and ham book that he was reading digitally on her phone, and it was just pictures, and then he would go through each picture, recognize what was on there, and then make up his own little story to go along with whatever was on that picture. I did notice that even though he was very rambunctious and not well managed, he was very respectful. If he wanted something, he said please. Once he did get it, he would say thank you. Little things like that I noticed. But I didn't, he especially struggled with not listening. I don't know if it was because I was there, or if he does that on a regular basis, because she would tell him to do something and he wouldn't want to do it. And I just kind of gauged that happens a lot. And there may be poor discipline, maybe when I'm not normally around, but because I was there, she was trying to discipline him. So the kids played very well together. They didn't fight or anything. They got along. They both were pretending to be on a phone, and they kind of were copycatting each other, and the little girl was trying to do whatever the little boy was doing. They were mocking each other, and they were acting like little adults talking on a cell phone. The mom shared that he will be starting preschool, I think this fall, and he'll be 4 years old. I see him very much being in the autonomy versus shame and doubt stage. He's just on the verge of it. He's very curious. Like, he was constantly moving, constantly in things, looking in things, looking to see what it would do, and jumping off the furniture, and just touching things that he probably didn't have any business touching, but he didn't fully understand that there is a danger in touching that item. And I don't know if maybe it's a little bit more with boys who are a little less afraid than a girl who would be more, have her guard up. But she did redirect them to do something else to keep them from hurting themselves, and she did explain to them, you can't jump off the furniture because this could happen. You could hurt yourself, or you could break a bone, and then they would get right back up there and do it. But she at least explained why you shouldn't be doing this. And I thought that was a good technique. Even though she had to do it maybe 4 times before they would stop, it was still a good technique. And she had shared with me while she was trying to discipline them and we were talking that they've been working on making the right decision. Even though he's only 3 years old, they've been already talking about making good decisions and right and wrong. And then she just said, in the midst of all of this, how hard it is with 2 little 3-year-olds around, and trying to make sure that they're safe and they're not getting into things that they shouldn't be getting into, and just how hard it is because they're so busy all of the time. And also because they are both 3 years old, and I think they are both getting ready to turn 4 here in the spring soon. And whenever she would tell him not to do something, he would come back with asking why. Of course, he's at that age where the initiative versus guilt comes in, and they start to ask questions. They want to know how things work, and that went along with the curiosity about wondering why things happen the way they are. And it was really interesting because he would ask why can't I do that, and then she would give her response as to why, and then he would ask why again, and it was like this vicious cycle, just went around and around and around. But he doesn't understand, so the only way for him to understand is to explain to him why something is a certain way. And she shared with me that sometimes when they go to the store, or anywhere when they see someone working, he'll ask the cashier or the person at the restaurant, what are they doing? Because he is in that stage where he wants to know. In order to navigate the crisis, I felt like they're navigating through this crisis just by giving them a little bit of freedom to explore and make mistakes. But I did think there was a little bit too much freedom, possibly, due to and he is experiencing a lower level of language development in terms of speech, where if he was worked with a little bit more, he may not have that problem. And he also really struggles with self-control. He hasn't quite understood that he can't just act out. And if he sees something that he wants, he will get it at any cost, and he doesn't care who he hurts to get there. So that's something that they kind of still needed to work on. I could notice, because he was doing that a lot with the little girl that was there. And the central process of this, in the initiation, he exhibited the quality very well. It was clear that he had been imitating someone when he was pretending he would talk on the phone. You could kind of tell that he had seen that before. And when he would copy the little girl, if she did something, he then would want to do it too. Something that I thought was kind of strange was he tended to know boundaries a little bit better than maybe she did. She didn't seem to have any boundaries of personal space or my personal boundaries. She was very much in my face, where he was a little bit more standoffish. And his ability to pretend to read the book and have more of an imagination, I thought, was where he was navigating through pretty well, considering his environment. His way of resolving the crisis, to me, was maybe learning to imitate and learn new skills as he goes along and create boundaries. The boundary thing, I thought, was the most important and the biggest tool he can probably learn early on moving forward, because it will be important when he goes on to make friends and he continues to be social with other people. Sometimes people don't want you in their space, and he will use these skills later on in life. He could also resolve his crisis, I think a lot of his crisis, while he's still in the initiative versus guilt stage, will be when he goes to preschool and he begins to have more structure in his environment, and he will hopefully learn he can't have everything he wants when he wants it. And I think things will really change for him being on a schedule, because right now he can kind of do whatever he wants. And he will kind of gain that self-control in being around other kids and maybe learning from other kids who are the same age and how they act. It will hopefully help him kind of learn from them and grow and kind of move forward. And some of it is just the stage that he is in right now. Partially with the earlier crisis, something that I thought possibly might have been a factor is when he went through the trust versus mistrust stage. I thought maybe because his mom and dad weren't currently together, when he was an infant, and there was this going back and forth a lot when he was a baby. So I don't know if that's where he was changed off between too many people, and it caused him to kind of lose trust and security and knowing someone will be there. And her working all the time, it was kind of hard for him to have some kind of a bond with her or with anyone. And it was like other family members that were coming in. He did have his aunt and his grandma, but at the same time it wasn't his mother to kind of have that. So I think that might play into his boundaries and why he's kind of distant, because he really didn't come over and greet me right away. He really kind of stood off to the side. And she did say that he was a month early and he had a lot of medical issues when he was first born, so he couldn't really bond and things like that from birth. So that may have contributed to the early psychosocial crisis as well, where he's trying to have that bond and build that trust. But he was able to move through the psychosocial stage early by having the aunt and the grandma nearby, and they did provide for his basic needs and gave him some emotional support, but it still wasn't the same as if it was from his mother. They did keep him safe and from hurting himself, and did teach him a little bit on the new skills, but he still was lacking supervision at a very early age from the mother not being available and working to create the bond. Could have been making him feel slightly abandoned. And my overall reflection on this experience was that it was kind of interesting. I've been around different kids, and it's just interesting how different they are depending on their ages, even if it's just a year, and their environment, to me, kind of seems to play a role in how they move through these psychosocial crises. Some people who may have a different environment may be able to go through them a little bit better than someone who maybe didn't. And they were very loud and obnoxious and like trying to outnumber each other. They were kind of in your face right off the get-go and very showy. And I think a lot of these things are just because of how old they are, and as they grow older, a lot of them hopefully will go away, and kind of as they move into the next stage, they will build on each other. Thank you.